So the trimeristin has reached room temperature. We definitely have some crystals. But to enhance our yield, I'm going to clamp that into an ice bath for a while. That way it won't fall over. Drop its contents into the ice bath. I'm going to cool that. Sink that in the ice bath as deep as possible. See if we can get a little bit more solid out. While that's cooling, we can set up a filtration apparatus. We've got a Hirsch funnel, piece of filter paper, and I think it'll fit in a 50 milliliter flask just about. So we want the smaller number 3 size of the filter adapter. And grab a vacuum hose out of this area under the sink. We'll want to clamp this as well, so we'll wait until that's ready and then use the same clamp. And I also cooled a lot of hexane in the ice machine so we would have some cold hexane to wash the filter cake with. That's been sitting there for a good half hour or so. Be nice and cold. There's a bunch of solid residue. This is stuff that didn't dissolve. It looks like it's quite a bit. I don't know what that impurity is, or whether it just would take a lot of hexane to get that to dissolve. So we'll let that cool for a bit. And you can see that we also have crystals in the other batch of tryptamine. Right? But those crystals don't seem like they're quite as clean. It looks like there's not a whole lot of it either. The yield on this is going to be pretty poor. Most of the solid seems to be that yellow stuff that wouldn't go into solution. We don't need the beakers anymore, those are cooled to room temperature. Clamp our filter flask in there. apply the vacuum. Make sure the filter paper is covering all the holes nicely. We actually have vacuum. And then we'll wet that with a little bit of cold hexane. Just to make sure we get a nice seal. So we can swirl that around. Looks like there's a lot of solid kind of stuck to the walls of the flask. We have a fairly sticky solid here. I'm going to dry that off with a paper towel if I can find any, or a Kim wipe if I can't. I don't want to get any water into my compound since water is immiscible with the hexane. We'll reach in there with a stirring rod and try to dislodge as much of the compound as we can off the walls of the flask so that when we pour it, it will actually come out. Some compounds are sticky. And we're going to filter that through. And there's a lot left in there. Stuck around the flask. Try to get that suspended as much as possible. Definitely working with a sticky solid here. Filter that through. Going to be losing quite a bit here because it won't come out of the flask. And then we'll just rinse that filter cake with a little bit of cold hexane. Since the solvent in this case was hexane, not water, there's no need to store that in a desiccator. We'll just let the air come through a little bit to evaporate the residual hexane, which boils at 69 degrees, so that'll come off pretty quickly. We've definitely got a lot of solid left in here, sticking to the walls of the flask that wouldn't come out. And it looks like we got very little product. It's going to be a pretty low yield from recrystallization. It doesn't take long for hexane to evaporate, so we can break the vacuum and see what we can get. I might actually try to transfer that directly into a vial. Since there's so little of it. call this tryptamine from hexane. But you would assign a lot number based on where you are, on what page you're on in your notebook. Our vial is 6.034 grams. Let's see if we can get any tryptamine into that vial. A little bit of solid. Trying not to disturb the filter paper at the moment. I want to be able to get the solid out. Unfortunately, the filter paper doesn't want not to be disturbed. At this point, I'm going to put it on a watch glass. So I can get the rest of it from around the holes. Tweezer still has a little bit of tranexamic acid on it. Try to get the rest of that into the vial. Easier said than done. So we definitely got a decent amount of purified tryptamine back. Not going to be a great yield, but it looks fairly clean. And the mass of now 6.056 grams with the tryptamine in there. So purification from hexane was successful. Not wildly successful. It's not like we got great recovery. We definitely left a bunch of solid behind on all the various flasks, but that's some good looking product. And I'm going to go ahead and take an IR spectrum of it. Grab a KBR kit from the stock room. KBR kit number 4 this time. Like someone bounced this mortar and pestle. It's obviously been broken off. We just got the little tip on the end of it. Oh, this one's not clean. Well, I'm gonna go get another kit and start